day everyone, I am Judessa Sweet Mary Bicong, and today I'll present to you my case study which about the Great Barrier Reef in Australia. Take only pictures, leave only bubbles. So let's get started. So the brief summary of this study is that the Great Barrier Reef is the world's most famous extensive coral reef. It's the home to abundant marine life. However, despite of the beauty shown on this site, there are serious concerns that could hamper the destination progress and sustainability. Therefore, the future of reef tourism in the GBR is concerning. This case study illustrates that the owner's and employee's lifestyle, value, and human capital are significant statistical indicators of an organization's ability to resist change and crisis. So first, let's talk to the analysis, situation analysis, and the scope of this study. So this study focused on three major areas, which is socioeconomic concern, fisheries, shoreline protection, and reef-related tourism and recreation. First, let's talk about the possible socioeconomic effects of losing the Great Barrier Reef. So with increasing evidence of social acidification or OAs and climate change, detrimental effects of the coral reefs and on corals and coral reefs ecosystems, our capacity to predict future change is improving. Furthermore, the projection of future losses in economic and societal world of coral reefs is made more difficult by the uncertainty associated with estimates of human behavior in reaction to coral reef deterioration. So, there are effects of losing the Great Barrier Reef. First is that the threats to the Great Barrier Reef are aggravated by unsustainable fishing, so which is currently dealing recurrent major bleaching events. In the past 5 years, three significant coral bleaching outbreaks have been caused by the global warming. According to the authorities, the most essential fishery sustainability issues cold incidental catch or of endangered species such as dolphins, whales, dugong, sawfish, sea snakes, turtle, and certain sharks in one fishery using enormous net put marine creatures at risk of entanglement or death. So that's the reason of unsustainable fishing. The next one is that factors affecting potential losses with the great fisheries. So the annual net income value of commercial fishes associated with the Great Barrier Reef is likely just over 40 million Australian dollar per year. Recreational fishes were estimated to injure approximately 70 million Australian dollar annually in net benefits. Another effects of losing the Great Barrier is that the Great Barrier Reef provides shoreline protection. So more than 316,000 coastal inhabitants have protected the GBR patchy succession of 2,900 coral reefs, calculating coastal protection value over $629 million worth of coastal protection for the entire coastline is challenging using a single replacement cost of one part of the GBR management planning. So the next one is that factors affecting potential losses. Coastal areas with the Great Barrier catchment area of the subject to erosion, most affected by the recent coral reef death, and also have the lowest population density coastline in some developed and urban areas. Many areas in the region are already classified and erosion prone. So another effects of losing Great Barriers is that reef-related tourism and recreation attribute to the GBR. So not all tourism to the GBR region may be linked to the coral reefs, as with the economic significance of GBR fisheries. Estimated annual reef-related expenditure range from 480 million Australian dollar in the year 2012 to more than 2 billion US dollar in 2013. Estimates of net benefits consumer surpluses to tourists range from the 474 million Australian dollar in the year 2008, demonstrating that the methodology for determining the economic contribution of coral reefs is still evolving. So another factors affecting potential losses is that tourists who plan to get the GBR or that had on their bucket list would likely to lose a considerable amount of their consumer surplus in the short term. The value of the GBR is challenging to estimate, and potential loss of importance reef loss is even more so. While many people feel the GBR is precious to Australians and people worldwide, the cost of avoiding loss are genuine. So the statement minor critical concerns are the following. First is that low water quality due to the runoff from the land. Second is consequence of coastal development. Third is direct human usage such as bycatch and illegal fishing. And lastly is decline in coral cover bleaching events, which I mentioned earlier. So there are areas of consideration. First, let's talk about agriculture. Agriculture deterioration of nature reefs has been connected increased pollutants in terrestrial runoff between Port Douglas and Whitsundays, the Great Britain. During the last 200 years, extensive land clearing has occurred in the GBR catchment and roughly 80% of the lawn area. Coastal development is that coastal development also involves mining industry and urban infrastructure, and port expansion are polluters. As a result, marine species have lost feeding and breeding habitats with significant consequence for water quality. The third one is exacerbating effects of climate change. So increased seawater temperature and changes in ocean chemistry are direct effects of climate change, which also increase the frequency and severity of coral disease and coral bleaching. Climate change threats will worsen land-based pollution and the GRS fishing impacts. Additionally, this will slow coral species rates of calcification and harm their capacity to create coral skeletons. And then lastly, the effects of fishing. The Great Barrier Reef Marine Park zoning plan designated 30% of the GBMRP no-take green zones, making fishing illegal, as so different fishing methods are permitted throughout the 67% of the GBRMP, or the Great Barrier Reef Management Plan. So, transport of pollutants from catchment. So, we have three: sediments, nutrients, pesticides, toxins, and poisons. So, first, let's talk about sediments. Land clearance for grazing dramatically enhance soil erosion and sediment loss to water courses. Long-term inputs of terrestrial sediments have various effects on corals, including shading, smothering, and recruitment disturbance. According to the researchers, only 35% of the fertilizers provided to the sugarcane is utilized by the crop during the nitrogen concentration, and other nutrients may cause algal blooms to overgrow coral structures, outcompete coral polyps for space, and yield coral colonies in critical levels. And according to the research, that some of this sugar cane are exposed in some areas where the coral reef, or where the GBR rather. So first, pesticides, toxins, and poison. More recent pesticides are widely spread in Queensland watersheds, source rivers, sediments, and near-shore marine environment next to human activity. Due to the extensive use, exposure will evict the zooxanthellae, causing coral bleaching and possibly mortality. So the next one is that the SWOT analysis. So this is my SWOT analysis of the GBR. So first, the strength. The largest coral reef in the world draws in many nature lovers and experts and broaden potential tourism growth. Next one is there is such expectation that Great Barrier Reef will arise in visitor thanks to the variety of adventure sports reef offers. Furthermore, it also have create a lot of opportunity which create business opportunities. Another thing is this weakness. Their weakness is that lack promotion as family destination. The traveler may not have many other options for entertainment aside from having a water activities. They have a lack of other options. Another one is that opportunities, the ability to attract crowds in extensive options. And then the threats. So first, the climate change, of course, which is we cannot avoid, but we can mitigate. Strong competitors such as Maldives, Fiji Islands, Philippines, and Mauritius, because according to the study, this place is also offer the same vibes with this GBR, or the Great Barrier Reefs. So implication of this study. So we have four. So first, improving biodiversity protection, which represent areas, programs, and rezoning. Second is that improving water quality, reef water quality protection plan. And the third one is that promoting sustainable fisheries, which solve the problem, Queensland fisheries management plans, and the last one is developing policy on the effects of climate change, which is the climate change action plan. So the next one is that the alternative courses of action. So first, they must develop marine protected areas or MPAS, most widespread management techniques used to strengthen the resilience of coastal ecosystem and safeguard coral reefs. Second is the integrated coastal management or ICM address issues such as coastal development, fisheries tourism, land-based source and pollution and sediment, waste disposal, agriculture, forestry, mining, gas, and oil industries and shipping activities. The last one is the fisheries management. Can be aided by management actions such as the creation of no-take zones, the restriction of gear use to imposition of fishing licenses, implementation protective measures, critical species legislation, controlling destructive fishing techniques, the monitoring of catch composition, the development of alternative livelihoods, and the regulation of the harvest of organisms. So that would be my alternative courses of action decision. So this case study provided an overview of the element influencing the resilience of Australian of GBR's nature-based tourism sector to the crisis and change. The consequence on the health of the GBR coral reefs were discussed, as well as the outline of how climate change, sea level rises, and more powerful storms and storm surge may harm the coastal infrastructure that reef tourism relies on. Furthermore, this study summarizes the recent research on the resilience of reef tourism firms to crisis and their contribution to conservation. The GBR Tourism Climate Change Action Strategy policy objectives are measures that can lead to the policy and institutional reforms that benefits reef tourism and conservation. So the strategy formulation, implementation. First is this initiative future opportunities include filing the scientific gaps in the knowledge outlined in this document, identifying further scientific gaps in the knowledge, identifying geographical gaps in management, monitoring. So programs for research and monitoring should also be strengthened and expanded to include areas they do not currently cover. So can create molecular markers that distinguish heat sent from the other stresses on coral reefs, cellular markers that anticipate and monitor coral bleaching and recovery, genetic markers that provide insights into the resistance and resilience of reef-building corals, ecological features that allow monitoring of the effects of coral bleaching, and scenario development of a complete model of the mechanism that cause mass coral bleaching to allow better prediction of the impact or coral bleaching. Then the next one is economic evaluation. Of course, it is important. Long-term management of coral reefs by demonstrating the maximum societal benefits of coral reef uses, quantifying and demonstrating the decision makers to value coral reefs, goods and services, and providing better understanding of the stakeholder involved, multi-stakeholder problem. So this would be the following would be equity distribution of understanding livelihoods dependent on coral reefs, valuation of ecological functions to give a holistic view of the worth of coral reefs, perception of the value of coral reefs by different stakeholders, the development of standard valuation techniques to allow comparison between coral reefs, improving governance and legal system for more efficient management of coral reefs, increasing awareness among coral reef users. So the outcome of this strategy is that the process of enhancing resilience of the Great Barrier Reef's nature-based tourism system, improving the resilience of the GBR nature-based tourism system to crisis and change would necessitate considering a wide range of factors that function locally to globally. So as you can see this figure, so this is the indicator. So first, we must identify or push to achieve desires for opportunity identifiers. For example, local or national global opportunities, options to utilize and advance. And then, second one is that identify threats to desired state scale, option for mitigation, local threats and adaptation, or global threats. So, these two indicators, it is important so that we can attain the resilience of the GBR nature base. So, by doing that, we would identify the actions and objectives, and we will also evaluate on how are we going to solve the problem, and by that, we will envision the desired future system, identify with the key stakeholders, because it would also enter action, reflection, and adaptation. By doing this system, we would know that what would be the problem or how we're going to mitigate the problem facing the GBR, the Great Barrier Reefs, so that we will able to improve the resilience of the nature-based tourism system, so that for the next generation we will still attain the sustainability of this. So that would be all, and thank you so much for listening. Again, this is Judessa Sweet Mary Bicalang, and now saying thank you everyone for listening.